Welcome back to the Patient First Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bryan Laskin. And as always, I'm glad that you're here. And we have today my favorite podcast guest. I say we always have good guests, but Dave is my favorite. Not only my favorite, but co-host from the podcast back before my first book, The Patient First Manifesto, when we rebranded. And Dave, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Now, we said after the last one we did, which was almost exactly a year ago, we said we should do this more often. And we have not.
I blame you.
It's appropriate.
Yep.
But do you remember what we talked about on the last podcast?
Well, only because you reminded me of predictions for the year 2024. So yes, you reminded me of that. So yes, I know.
Okay. So here's what happened today. I did some things that I have not done for a very long time.
You went back and looked at old podcasts.
I listened to this podcast.
Okay.
I have not listened to this podcast for years and years because I usually talk in the microphone. And then maybe if I'm speaking or something, somebody comes up to me and say, "Oh, I loved your podcast." And I'm like, well, I have no idea what I said. Because that brings me to point number 2. Not only did I listen to the podcast, but I prepared for the podcast. And it might be shocking for most people. There is very little preparation that goes into this podcast. Lots of preparation in everything I do. So coming to this podcast is usually very easy to talk for 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever. Now, if I have slides behind me, I usually put them together about 5 minutes before actually doing this podcast. And you might notice all the slides look the same. So, yes.
Let me help your audience a little bit on this, because if they haven't done podcasts before, when you and I started podcasting together.
Now, Dave's going to talk about how much I sucked.
Yes, I'm going to talk about how much Bryan sucked at podcasting.
Thank you.
We had it scripted out. You'll say this and I'll say this. And it went back and forth like that for about one episode.
And I blame me for that, by the way.
I
yes.
100% blame you.
Yeah.
And then after that, we just fell into a rhythm of just being able to talk and have a normal conversation and not really worry about how many people are going to be watching this.
Yes. And as you know, we have lots of great guests on the Patient First podcast. None as good as Dave, but we have a lot.
Yeah.
And for many of them, it's their first podcast. And you know what? All of the people that haven't been on a podcast want to do?
Have a scripted thing. And
they want to prepare.
Yes.
And I'm like, doesn't happen anymore.
Yep.
So not only have I prepared, I did another thing that I don't think I've done since we were in the studio many years ago. I don't know, 5 years ago or so. I printed off notes.
Oh, it wasn't you recorded me surreptitiously to use it against me for the rest of my life?
No.
Okay.
No, because I'll bring you to my first point.
Okay.
I was going to go over our predictions for last year.
Okay.
But my friend, my audience, I'm sorry. They're boring. You know why they're boring?
Because it's the same old stuff?
No, because you and I, 100% accurate, true.
Well, I'll tell you right now, because I knew coming into this one that we were going to try to do a prediction of 2025. And I'm like, it's so obvious that I'm like, well, let's talk about it. But
so listen to mine. So last year I did a predictions one, then you came on and we talked about your predictions and I kind of went over mine. So I haven't talked about my predictions for 2025, but I have them here in front of you.
Right.
And I have tried to go bold. I don't like being right. You might know that. In fact, quick story from last night. I did a lecture to a group of phenomenal dentists.
By the way, you do a great job of not being right. So honored.
Thank you. Appreciate that. This story, I waited to tell you this story. So this happened last night. I was at a lecture till 10:30 at night. And great group of dentists. And the dentist that brought me there, I won't say his name because in case he feels embarrassed for this, but he shouldn't, I should. At the end of the day, at the end of the lecture, there was this dentist and a couple other dentists. And the one dentist said, "I think I saw you speak last year." And he said, "Yes, we had you speak at the St. Paul District Dental Society. And you sucked."
Oh.
He said, "You sucked." He goes, "Your information was amazing, but nobody, including myself, knew what the hell you were talking about." Right? And I said, "Welcome to my world." That's why I have to write books about stuff, right? So I thought that was amazing. I thought you would appreciate that. So I'm
Yep.
not only am I wrong, but oftentimes I suck. But I digress. So our predictions. Do you remember any of our predictions from last
No,
year? Okay.
not one.
So one of mine was that it would be an era of starting off growth for dentist-owned DSOs because I hypothesized that DSOs, which are many times run by financial, professionals,
Yep.
not dentist owned, would be having trouble. Ho, ho, ho. Big green
Accurate. Yeah.
check mark on that
Yeah,
one.
for sure.
Number 2, you and I both predicted that 2024 was going to be the year of AI.
Okay, well, guess what 2025's prediction?
Well, you're getting ahead of yourself, but yes, I have a more specific AI prediction,
Okay.
which I'll talk about, and I want to hear yours. And number 3, this was a Dave only prediction that I, more than me wanting to be right or wrong, I want you to be wrong. We have that mutual,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
No,
That's a mutual
that is
thing.
accurate.
So you said that it was going to be, you were pretty vague. I want you to be more specific this year. But
Okay.
you said that there was going to be growth in the cloud-based PMS space, right? And my friend, I'm giving you a big green check mark here
Yeah.
because this was 10 years overdue.
Which
Right?
is about the time frame that every technology hits dental. So
We're always ahead. Like that's the number one thing that
Yeah.
I've had to do is not like a lot of the technology we create are become big 10 years after we create them,
yes.
which is a problem, right? Which is a problem, which is why I love this prediction show so much.
Well, that really goes back to what you were talking about, where that doctor came up to you the other night and said you sucked.
Correct.
Because you are trying to explain the road towards the future, and it's hard for them to wrap their head around it because they're still working on getting caught up from technology from 10 years ago.
Yes. And there's about 300 people in that room. And I left that room not knowing that I sucked. Now, the last 12 months, it's been painfully obvious to me that nobody knew what the hell we were talking about.
Yeah.
And so then my lecture we did yesterday went over much better.
Okay.
So anyway, that's our predictions and why they're boring. Because the year before 2023, I had some big swings and misses, and go back and listen to it if you want to. I don't know why you want to listen to what was going on in 2023, but alas, here we are. Unless you want to hear me be wrong, like you might want to do. So
I get plenty of that.
now I might, because I have mine written down. Do you want me to go first talking about my predictions, or would you like to for 2025?
Well, why should today be any different? You should go first.
So I don't even know what you mean with that, but I'll go first. So I've got some easy predictions, okay? And I'm going to say that I'm not even talking about some of my predictions because, as you know, we're working on some stuff that's
super
in stealth
secret.
mode.
Yeah.
Right? So my easy prediction is that my book is going to be coming out sometime around the middle of this next year. Or this year, I guess. So my third book, my third and likely final book in dentistry. The first book, Patient First Manifesto, we talk about solving the problem between the disconnect between dentists and patients. My second book, Dental Disorder, solving the disconnect in our industry.
Yeah.
And the third book is going to be solving an even bigger problem.
Well,
yes, go ahead.
Let me help you finish that book in a timely fashion. Why don't you get it done by your birthday, which is in the middle of the summer?
Well,
go with that.
Well, because it's not just about writing the book; it's about launching the book and all, and having the things that the book is pointing to, right?
Okay.
So, but my time. So June 1st is my birthday, right in the middle of the year, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to launch it on my birthday. But so that's an easy prediction for me because I'm well on now. Like we talked about, there's lots more coming that we're going to be driving that I'm not going to be talking about. And the last, because there's been a lot going on, but we're going to start dripping the seeds, planting the seeds. Thank you. Starting at Yankee. So at the end of this month, a couple of weeks, probably is, by the time this goes live, might be live. Now, that we've had a lot of people, how would I say this? So Steve Jobs says that great artists steal,
Yep.
right? I agree with that. A lot of people
Are graders.
are great artists stealing our stuff. But I, allow me to improve upon a classic Steve Jobs quote.
Okay.
I like to say great artists steal from great artists. And
Fair.
because we've had people, when we were working at Opera together, people would steal our some of our features we did or whatever that just fell flat, right?
Yeah.
And but there's been some great artists stealing from our great art. So I think we have a ton of research and development going on. So the big picture is that there's going to be I think we are, and I'll say this for my 10-year prediction at the end, because I have a 10-year prediction.
Okay.
We are in a new phase of dentistry that is going to be kicked off this year. Okay. So let's go back to so I'll talk more about that in a little bit. The year of AI last year was true. Now, I would argue that it did not look the way that I anticipated it being. I think ChatGPT and the explosion of those platforms, we did not predict.
Correct. Yep.
And what I'm predicting for 2025 is that I'm calling it the year of useful AI, right? Now, the AI that's out there is useful. I don't want to say it's not useful, but it's not actually attacking the biggest problems in dentistry, mainly the workforce deficiency, the overwhelmed team, all of that. We're going to see an explosion of tools in AI, some coming from Toothapps, some coming from partners, some coming from left field that we don't even know about today, that are going to make dental practice team members and patients' lives a lot better that nobody's talking about today. That's my AI prediction. You, my friend, are also thinking about AI. What are your thoughts on that?
So I've got a story. So I have been
Story time.
in technology sales forever, since
I was born, since before I was born,
obviously,
right? Because you're much older than me.
yeah, clearly. One of the there have been a bunch of cycles in IT that are easy to recognize in hindsight for most people, which is, the explosion of the PC. I was selling PCs when at a time before everybody had a PC in their house. And then I was there selling PCs when everybody got it. And at that time, you would sell a computer to somebody where they said, I need to get a computer. I don't know why, but I have to have one in order to keep up with what's going on in the world. So, and people would walk out the door not knowing what they bought, not knowing why they just spent $2,500 on a computer system, but they knew they needed it so they didn't get left behind. So in hindsight,
AI has been like that in dentistry.
exactly.
Yes.
And so that was super recognizable trend in hindsight. The same thing happened with the internet. When the internet started to explode, it became this thing where people are like, I know I need to get online. I don't know why, but I know I need to do that. And then, now it's a ubiquitous tool that everybody uses every day ad nauseum.
Yep.
AI is that right now.
So I would argue or clarify my point that right now people are signing up for AI
And they don't know why.
and they don't know why.
Yep.
What's going to happen in 2025 is people are going to be using AI and they don't even know it. They're not signing up for AI.
Right.
They're solving it. They're signing up to solve a problem.
Right.
And it just happens to be the engine underneath the hood of the car that nobody's looking at. Right. Now they're going to probably those companies are probably going to be talking about their AI so that they can raise bigger round or whatever,
Right.
because people are throwing money at AI companies, even though many people don't even know what the business plan is long term, right? But I digress. But I think in 2025, you're going to just see some really helpful tools that are powered by AI that you don't even that's not the main thing. Because you and I know my AI is really a marketing term. What's the actual type of AI? There's a lot of details there, but ultimately, to like put a high level on this, I think we're going to be using tools, not signing up for it like what people have been doing, which I believe exactly what you're saying to be true. People are like, well, I need to use this because, you know, hate to break it to the people who are listening that what dentists buy in dentistry is what they're sold, right? And in
In large part, yes.
most companies have, we were talking about Toothapps at this meeting last night. People were like, "How can you do what you're doing so inexpensive?" And well, we have 45 developers,
Yeah.
and that's our one salesperson, right?
Yeah.
Similar with Opera, you were the one salesperson,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Most companies have 100 software people, 100 salespeople to each developer,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And they're just not creating new stuff. They're just trying to shove stuff down dentists' throats. They raise PE money. They do more marketing, that kind of thing. And that's kind of what goes on in dentistry. So that works, and that's been working for AI. And then,
Well,
unless the product is garbage and doesn't have an ROI, it's going to fade away like, some do. But otherwise, people just get this idea like, I'm seeing the advertisements for this. I should probably get it, to your point.
well, I think more to emphasize where I was going before I was so rudely interrupted.
So let me go on to my next. Oh, go ahead. Yes.
No, I think that what ChatGPT has done for people like you and I, we're IT nerds at our core. And so we get excited about new technologies. And, the term AI has been, just like you said, bantered around a lot it's not just since ChatGPT came around, it's been bantered around a ton. And you and I also noticed that, most of these people aren't truly using AI. They're using the term, but it's not an AI product. Now, because of ChatGPT, it's put some guardrails around that term. So now we're actually starting to see AI be AI versus people kind of BSing their way through throwing that term out. And like I've seen some AI tools that are coming that I'm like, oh my gosh, like one thing, just to use a very specific example that I thought was really cool as I go to all these different dental conferences, just an AI scribe.
Yeah.
I think that is a really cool technology that's been launched, and I know of new AI scribe products that are either just came out or about to come out, and I think they're just awesome. I think that to the point of what you were saying about AI, where it's going to be not just using AI, but this is the product, this is the problem that it's solving, and it's going to make your life incredibly easy compared to where it was before this.
Yeah. We're saying the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm saying
we
a
are.
little bit higher level.
Yep.
I would also mention that to our audience that like most people listening aren't IT nerds like us.
Right.
These are commoditized products.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
All of these are basically a skin on top of somebody else's platform, whether it's OpenAI or, Microsoft has a few. You've got Google, you have Amazon with Perplexity, and because none of these companies that I'm aware of are developing their own LLMs,
Correct.
right? So
Yep.
like Amazon has reached out to us to say, we'd love to build these tools for you because then we pay them for the usage of their LLMs.
Yep.
And so these are anyone that's going to the LLM, there can be some front end work, some back end work, but for the most part, these things, including scribes, other things,
Yep.
are commoditized. So don't pay too much for these things. Because the prices in AI are going to drop precipitously
100%.
this year too. That's another AI prediction. It wasn't even on my sheet.
Yeah. No, I'm already seeing that. Like,
Yeah.
as I work in imaging, obviously AI imaging has been a buzz phrase for a couple of years, but there's tons of other stuff coming out. But with imaging specifically, with AI attached to it, I see that price just go.
Yep. Yeah. It's a
across the
commodity.
years.
It's
Yep.
going to be way cheaper than people are paying today. Yeah. So I was going to make another prediction, but about AI, but I want to move on.
Okay.
There's a couple things that the starting gun is going to go off this year where we're really going to start seeing some traction. One is the medical dental connection. Okay, connection between dental practice and physicians. Doing a lot of work there ourselves, standard development and other things. But I think that this year, a lot of people have been talking about this medical dental thing, like because somebody has heart disease, there's a high chance they have advanced periodontal disease and vice versa. But people have been talking about it theoretically, much like AI. There's going to be tools to implement to really make this not theoretical, to make it true collaborations between physicians and dentists will possible for the first time. We've already connected like 6 months ago, Toothapps to Epic, Next Gen, which is another EMR. We've got a lot going on in that circle, but there's going to be like real actionable things as a dentist to work with physicians, or as a physician to work closely with dentists. And all down the care chain. I won't go further in detail than that. Pay attention to this podcast because we're leading the charge in that for sure.
Yeah, no, 100% you are.
Another thing that we're leading the charge on, that was my prediction last year. Last year I said 2024 was going to be the year of AI. 2025 was going to be the year of interoperability. And I think that is true. 2024, you could argue, if you're paying attention to what's going on in the industry, the last ADA news, about half of it was related to interoperability. So it's happening at a higher level now when we're talking about ADA news and what's going on in the back end. But I think in 2025, I don't think the average dental practice is going to be thinking about interoperability. Much like AI, I think 2026 will be the year that they're really implementing tools that they don't even realize. The reason why everything works faster, better, cheaper, more comprehensively is because of interoperability. But I think the interoperability powered tools are going to start taking off in 2025.
It's that one. That one's gonna be a tough pull.
That's on us almost.
Yeah, it really is. And the reason I say that, obviously, it's on you and your small sales team versus huge development team. But like working for Planet DDS as I do, the interactions that I have around interoperability is limited.
Yes,
And
totally agree.
so you're going to have to create a narrative that opens people's minds up to, why do I need that interoperability?
Which goes to my big prediction for 2025.
Okay.
Thanks for setting me up.
You're welcome.
My big prediction, that there is going to be a $200 million plus fine for violating the Cures Act in dentistry.
That is a bold statement.
Yep. Now, I think that this changing of the guard in the administration, because this is the federal government's going to deliver this fine, will delay us about 6 months, us meaning the industry being fined.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it might have happened in the first 6 months. So I think it's going to be a very end of the year thing, because this is we don't even know who's going to be in the seat to possibly deliver the fine. But that's my big bold prediction, is that in 2025,
okay, so
over $200 million fine to an industry vendor. This is not, now keep in mind, I'm talking about a software company, probably the people that are hacking into systems and reselling data. Their potential.
No,
the people that aren't giving people access to their data, and dentists are paying about $70,000. Just in the ADA news, a profile of dentists that paid $70,000 because it couldn't give the patient their chart, even though it was their PMS vendor that couldn't do it. So one of these vendors, whether it's a garbage API platform that's hacking into systems and reselling it, which all of the PMS are victims to.
Yep.
So you want to make sure your software vendors are actually getting the data legally, ethically, and morally, because if I'm right, one of these companies is going to get either fined or shut. Those guys might get shut down, right? But
how are they not?
I mean,
there's only a couple players out there that could take a $200 million hit and stay alive.
Now, this actually isn't that bold of a prediction, because those big vendors you're talking about paid over $200 million fines for HIPAA violations when HIPAA was not being followed. Arguably, it still isn't, right?
Yeah.
I mean, actually, not arguably, it isn't.
Right.
But but those companies have paid those fines. My prediction, it's not the $200 million. Those are coming for sure. Probably closer to $500 million by my attorney's account. The bigger question, is it going to happen in 2025? Because we have a massive administrative change, and do they care enough about what's going on in dentistry? That's the big question. So that's my big bold prediction.
That is a big bold prediction. I will be shocked.
I don't want to be wrong, but I don't want to make layup predictions. I don't want to be sitting here with you in 2026 saying I got everything right. And I definitely don't want to be sitting here with you in 2026 saying you got everything right. So you better come up with some bold predictions between now and the end of this podcast, my friend. So I also have some new ones.
All right.
2026 is going to be, what I say, a growth of new large companies. I don't know if we're going to see like a failing of some of the large ones. I think that's quite possible. But we're coming to a point in time now, and this is a little focused on kind of my little world, right?
Yeah.
But great companies usually come out of a crisis like the pandemic, and they do some transformative things that take a couple years to catch fire. And I think that 2020 is going to be that year. So last year I said was going to be the year of AI, and then I predicted that 2025 is going to be the year of interoperability. I still think this is going to be the year of interoperability, fueled by some fines, and 2026 is going to be the changing of the guard. Some large companies will fall, some small companies will become large. That is my prediction.
I'm trying to think who that could be. Because
after the podcast, we can have a conversation.
You definitely have some ideas on who that's going to be. So
it's a bloodbath in dentistry right now, my friend. There's a lot of big companies that are laying people off, reorganizing and stuff. And there's a lot of small companies that I'm looking at going, these guys could take off, right?
Yeah.
And I would put Toothapps in that boat too, my friend. So 2026 is going to be that year for Toothapps. But also, it's not about Toothapps completely. But I do think that there's going to be a changing of the guard. People are going to be shocked at some companies that just go from OpenAI this year, right? Or last year, I should say. OpenAI, people weren't talking about it in 2023. Now, NVIDIA, OpenAI, they're bigger than the other tech companies. Yeah. Going to have a similar changing the guard in dentistry in 2026. That's my prediction.
Now, I've been telling you about NVIDIA since 2020.
Now,
because you didn't listen to me.
I did listen to you, and I think I bought 2 shares.
Yeah, good job.
So I can buy lunch. So I mentioned before, my easy prediction is that my book is going to drop, right? And what we've been talking about with Toothapps up to this point on this podcast has been the appetizer. This year, we're making the full meal deal, my friend. And so pay attention to this podcast. Yeah. And really, I mean, realistically, just like with opera, like I've been talking to our customers, which are awesome. And, my goal is for them to go, holy man, we signed up at the right time.
Yeah.
So we're not going to raise the fees for these people.
Right.
They're just going to get like tremendous improvement. And so now's the time to sign up if you want to
take advantage of all the cool stuff you got.
I want to say just
without having to pay.
Without having to pay. If you want to save some money, sign up now. Exactly.
Be part of the cool kids club.
Yep. We're exhibiting at Yankee in a couple of weeks in Chicago. We're throwing a party actually with Quickly, our company that we're part of.
All right, let me ask you a prediction that I think your audience will be interested in. And I will save them money by asking this question. If you were to predict when you're going to do your price increase, when's that going to be?
The goal is not to raise the price. I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah, but you can't go on perpetually at the pricing you're at with continuously adding new functionality. So if I'm not asking what you're going to raise the price to, I'm asking there's got to be a price adjustment at some point.
I would say that there's going to be a fundamental shift in the amount of feature sets and things that we do to the point where where to take full advantage of what we're doing, I mean, realistically, it's not going to stay like this.
Right.
Right. So I would say either in the first half of this year, I would say for
Okay.
sure.
All right.
Right.
So fair
Fair warning.
I have helped you
Thank you.
by providing fair warning.
Yeah. Because like I said, what we are doing now, which is a lot, forms and websites and interoperability and patient application, which is mandated by federal law, and all the, business analytics that are second to none, right? And we have a ridiculously low fee. In fact, to the point where last night, I think the person that organized it looked at me and said, "How can you do it for this low?" Right? Like I said in the podcast.
Yeah.
Right. So the question is, will we be able to continue? No. Like
No.
at some point we're going to, and yeah, so now's the time. And so I have one final prediction.
Okay.
And I probably did too many predictions this year
Now
because I got excited.
let me throw one of mine in before you
Okay.
because you want yours to be the finale, right?
Sure. Why not?
Why not?
I thought you were going to have a really nice, big, bold, juicy prediction for us to end with.
It's a horrible prediction.
Okay.
So
Even better.
I'm going to give
Even
you
better.
an absolutely horrible prediction because it's so stupid, but it drives me crazy. So I came into this industry in 2018, and the reason I came in, you brought me on. I saw what you were working on. I saw that there was a great opportunity because the fields were so green with people that needed improvements in their technology, and it continues to be the case. When I started out, Bryan and I were selling an online form solution, so you could have all your patient forms be online, and patients could fill them out at home and automatically transmit them, have them integrate with the practice management system. At the time, that was a revolutionary idea. And when I first started selling that, I'd call up offices and I'd talk to the front end people, and they'd be like, "Well, that's just going to displace me out of my job." And I'm like, "What? That's all you do?" And so that was step one. And then the other thing that I was like, "How?" was that they were like, "Oh, our doctors love paper." Well, I don't know how to combat.
They also love horses and buggies and stone tablets and chisels.
And so it really took me a long time to get past like that mindset to be able to provide a value to what we did. It was very, very difficult at first, and then I kind of got my talk track and we blew up and so forth. So now here I am, 7 years later, been in the industry for 7 years. And I still look at these companies, and I'm talking about gigantic DSOs, some of the biggest players in the DSO space, where they are not taking advantage of economies of scale. They are not standardizing all their offices on a particular platform for whatever. Like they let offices go wild, wild west on them. The doctor wants this, and this is the way that this office is going to run. This is a DSO. You are there to create economies of scale. And if you don't standardize on a particular platform for whatever, whether it's imaging or practice management or whatever the case may be, you have to start moving in a direction of standardization. I am seeing that happen right now, where I am seeing big DSOs say, we now need to get on an enterprise style platform and be able to standardize all our practices on one thing. So this is not the reason I say this is a crappy prediction is because
what you're seeing, what's going on now.
Right. It's going on.
That's not a prediction. That's an observation.
It's an observation, but I'm telling you, there are still gigantic DSOs that are not engaging in that.
Well,
so I'm telling you, everybody's going to be having that conversation and making that move at the largest scale.
Okay. Now, first of all, absolutely not a prediction. It's an observation. Totally agree. Second of all, that's an impossible, futile attempt to do. Okay. Because let's say you're a large DSO, you have 100 practices, and you get everybody doing everything the same.
Yeah.
Which, okay, So you just had Mary Poppins come and go to every practice, spread some magic, and this actually happened,
Right.
which it doesn't. Okay.
I know.
Well, let's say you did.
Yep.
Okay. Then you buy another 10 location DSO that does it differently.
Move them.
Good luck. Okay. Last year, as you know, my dental practice went from one PMS to another PMS.
Yeah.
I would have been better off taking 6 months of revenue, not profit, putting it in the pile and burning it alive, like just firing it. Now, or you could just plug it into an exchange like Toothapps that actually makes them all function the same, regardless of what system you're using. So then if you're at the corporate level, you can actually look at any system and you don't have to bug Mary at the front desk to do her billing differently, or Sally, the dentist, who to write their notes differently or whatever. Now, you might want to improve things and standardize things. And by standardize, because I write standards for the industry, it means something different than standardized, like standard operating procedures is a way we do things. So if you want to hire a trainer just to tell everybody how to do something, so it's a whole nother talk track for me. Like, why in dentistry do we have to be trained to use software? Outside of dentistry, when was the last time you took training to do software? It's because the software in dentistry sucks. That's why.
I will tell you this.
That will be fixed. That will be
It
fixed.
will not.
It will be
not be
fixed.
fixed.
Yes, it will.
All right.
But now I don't think in 2025, maybe somebody might do it, but certainly in the next, brings me to my last prediction,
You're
which
welcome.
is a 10-year prediction that this next decade, it's not a new prediction for me, but I'm more convinced than ever that these next 10 years are going to be the 10 years of connected dentistry. Right? The flip of like everybody not using the same things, but this stupid archaic concept of do you integrate with my system is going to be dead soon. And that will enable a whole nother list of new functionalities, new innovations, so that people can just create a great platform and not have to go to 14 different freaking vendors saying, how can I plug in? And then they say, how much are you going to pay us? And how, and all this BS, that's all going to be buried very soon, if not this year, next year, such that then there's going to be a whole new wave of innovation through AI and other non LLM driven tools that will drive innovation even more so than the digital dentistry revolution. Connected dentistry revolution is going to be faster and more profound than the digital dentistry transition. That's my 10-year prediction.
I think it's going to happen faster than 10 years, but okay.
But it's going to be a trend that over the next 10 years, we're going to see more change in dentistry in the next 10 years, positive change in the next 10 years from a workflow, patient care, patient experience perspective in the next 10 years than we've seen in the last 50.
I think that, so giving a little history, I think that specifically practice management software has historically languished in development and was provided as a necessary evil for practices from the providers of their resources, like cotton rolls and all the other stuff. So, you look at the big distributors, and they created these software platforms as a way to help the practices be more manageable, but it wasn't their core business, right? And so they created these products. They worked to some degree. Offices would, put in suggestions. They might listen to you. They might not listen to you in what you're talking about. And certainly I see a push towards this is giving those smaller companies that are creating really innovative products access without a huge overhead like you're talking about, to be able to sell their product but not have to pay these exorbitant integration fees to work with these vendors. Either those vendors are going to change out of that model, or they're going to get left behind.
Yeah, and it's not even fees. It's just having access.
Right.
It's right.
Yeah.
Because
Having
and by
access,
the way,
period.
yeah,
Right.
because it's what I can tell you it isn't is HIPAA compliance. It's it's regulatory, worrying about privacy, security of patient data. That is not the problem. It's a problem of how much will you pay us?
Right.
Plain and simple.
For sure. Yes.
Right. So that's that we're probably going down into the part that a lot of people aren't tracking, which makes sense. But that's my prediction. Do you have any more for predictions today?
No, I'll sit on my two. So
One or two.
AI
Yeah.
and
Oh, really? Your two observations. Oh, AI, the one you made last year. Okay. I've got major fines for industry partners, companies going under, other companies growing, but okay, we got yours.
One of us has a little back room with elves putting together software, so is driving the industry in a particular direction. So
Well, fair, but I am. I mean, I think the future of dentistry is bright, and I think that the predictions that I have are all positive, unless my book sucks. but I think So I look forward to sitting here in 12 months and going through the list, and then that'll probably I'll listen to the podcast again. 12 months, or maybe I'll keep my
look
piece of
forward
paper.
to it as well, because I think that you made some really bold predictions that are like out there. So that is
I don't want. I mean, I don't. I don't.
Next year I will come back with something. I will come with something
Bold. Okay, good. Because and to be fair, like, because when I listened to the last year's, I was like, this is boring because we're right on everything. I don't want to be right. I mean, I do want to be right, but if I'm going to be right, I want to be like, I can't believe that
Bryan
we predicted that. Yeah. Well, thank you, Dave, as always. Good to see you, my friend. And we'll have to do this again in between the 12 months.
Okay. Well, maybe when there's less ice on the ground.
Take care. Thank you, everybody.
See ya.